Hi, my name is Denny Duncan. It's my pleasure to serve as Alumni Director here at Grace College and Seminary. Our department is planning a rafting trip through the Grand Canyon for July of 2021. This trip was to have taken place this month, but has been postponed because of travel concerns related to the coronavirus pandemic. The good news is that the delay will allow us to add participants. The originally planned trip filled in less than 2 weeks. We're excited to extend the opportunity to more of our alumni. This trip is being led by Grace College icon, Dr. Don DeYoung. I can't imagine anyone less in need of introduction to Grace alumni, but I'm honored to have this opportunity to do so. Dr. DeYoung teaches part-time at Grace College after several decades on the science faculty. He is a graduate of Michigan Tech, Grace Seminary, where he received a Master's of Divinity, and Iowa State University, where he received a PhD in physics. Don has written 21 books on Bible science topics, including object lessons for kids. Dr. DeYoung is president of the Creation Research Society with 1,800 members worldwide. Don speaks on a broad range of Bible science topics and believes the details of nature are a powerful testimony to the Creator's care for us. Don and his wife Sally have 3 married daughters and 10 grandchildren, all residing in northern Indiana. Thanks so much for coming with us today.
My pleasure, Denny.
All right. So I have a list of questions I've kind of written out here, and we could just kind of go from there. But could we begin with just kind of a general description of the trip?
Well, again, Grand Canyon rafting trip. It's a powered raft that we use. It's 7 days on the river. It's kind of a bucket list for a lot of people. A good chance to look at that national park, Grand Canyon.
Okay, very good. So I saw the Grand Canyon for the first time ever a few years ago. I had a unique opportunity. I rode a small plane kind of around the edge of the canyon, and then spent a day walking just kind of along the edge and looking down. And the thing for me ever since has just sort of been frustrating because I don't have words to articulate the majesty. I don't know, majesty. I don't think that's a word, but I just literally can't describe the place because it's so enormous.
It is. It's a wonderful area, almost too big to take in. It hardly looks real. And from a raft perspective, you're really looking up.
It'll be just the opposite.
Of course, there's a whole world at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. It's not just rocks and river. There are wilderness areas. There's wildlife. There are waterfalls. Lots to explore. Lots to see.
So there are hiking excursions during the trip?
There'll be some hiking. It's optional during the trip, day hikes. And we also take time off along the side of the river on the beaches and have picnics and play games. It's just, it's a whole world down there.
Okay, so this is going to be personal concerns here. So we're talking about a week-long trip, 200 miles through the canyon. What about sleeping and, most important, eating?
Well, it is a camping experience, but with quality. We work with a group called Arizona River Runners, and they've been doing this for 50 years. They've got a good plan. And they take care of the food, and it's first class. And during the day, you're on the raft, and you're getting wet and exploring creation. In the evening when we land, dinner is prepared, and usually a sharing time. But again, our group, they provide tents, cots, sleeping bags, everything that's needed.
Okay. And you mentioned wildlife. Like that'll be a big deal for my wife. What kind of wildlife do we find a mile below the ground?
Yeah, again, when you look at the canyon from above, it just looks, dry and desert-like. But you can get lost at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. There are forest areas, and there's wildlife. There's bighorn sheep. There's a lot of little critters, of course, squirrels and things like that. Now, it is a desert area, and so there are things like rattlesnakes, but you don't see them, hopefully. And if you do, we take care of them. So they're rather rare. So it's more a deer that you'll see, wildlife kind of similar to the Midwest.
Okay. And what about Archaeological experiences, do you see evidences of like people from years ago?
Well, yes, along with all the scenery, there are a lot of Indian ruins at the bottom of the canyon, and we'll explore some of those. Now, this is in a national park, and of course, it's hands off, but you can get a close look at some of the rock paintings that have been done and some of the structures that they made centuries ago in out-of-the-way places. They had things like storage areas way up in the cliffs, and you can hike up there if you want and take a look inside their granaries. Yeah, people have enjoyed the canyon ever since creation.
Awesome. I'm so excited about this whole business. How does the canyon support the biblical description of Noah's flood?
Well, that is a major part of our exploration, to look at evidence and just encouragement when it comes to that worldwide flood from Noah's day. Now, the interesting thing is, what we'll get a good look at is a 1 mile thickness of sedimentary rock. Really, we have the same thing here in the Midwest, but it's buried underground. When you get down into the canyon, you're actually passing through these layers. And we proposed that all these rock layers formed during 1 year, during the flood, and there's evidence for that, of a rapid formation. And most interesting, Denny, when you get to the very bottom of the canyon, there's a platform down there, and there you can see where the sedimentary rock begins. We believe that during the flood, when God cleaned this world, the whole Earth's surface was just sanded and really scraped down to a flat surface. And you can be right down there and see it. And then you can see where the sedimentary rock begins, built up above that, from there right up to the top of the canyon. Now, the geologists look at this and they're very puzzled by a platform and then all the sedimentary rock above it. And we could have put a good biblical interpretation on it. And really, the rock layers that we're seeing are worldwide. But in the Grand Canyon, it's a place where you can pass down through them, go underground, and touch them.
Wow. Wow. So many reasons that I'm excited about this. But can we finish up with just like your own personal favorite anecdote or favorite thing of the story? Because I know you've done this trip a number of times.
Well, I've been down in the canyon on this raft trip about 6 times now, and every time is different and interesting. The weather can be different, but it's always a privilege to be there. I think one thing I always enjoy is floating down the river. The water's cold, and the air's warm. Now, we'll be there in July, and it's like 100 degrees, but it's a desert, and it's interesting. And when you're on the river, you can look up at these high cliffs, and you can see caves up there that no one can get at because they're far above and below everything else. And then you can see some of these large birds flying in and out of those caves, and you realize there are places that God has set up where only animals can go. And I don't know what kind of treasures they have up in the caves, this wildlife, but that's their realm. I enjoy looking at that, places that are out of reach for us, but you can look at them. And one other thing, Denny, thinking of looking up, at night in the canyon, it's dark. There are no lights after we turn our flashlights off, and it's a great place to do some stargazing, and we'll do some of that as well. Now, it is kind of narrow because you're down in this canyon, and so you kind of see a strip of light, but as the night goes on, it passes overhead, so stargazing will also be part of our interest there.
That's awesome. So again, we have a limited number of openings for the trip that will take place next July 6th through the 12th. For more information, you can call the alumni office, or you can email me at my Grace email address. That's duncandl@grace.edu.